Good afternoon, everyone. It is noon. Thanks for joining us for Tech Tuesday. My name is Vanessa, and I am an ITS communication specialist. And I have Bridget McFadden joining me today. She's going to help me answer some questions about Qualtrics. So thank you all for joining. Thank you, Bridget, for helping me out today. Oh, I think I've got one person stuck in the waiting room. Nope, they're in. Okay, awesome. So just in case you're new to Tech Tuesday, I'm recording this session. So if you want to refer back to it later, I'll be emailing a copy of it to everybody after the session. If you registered today, then I have your email on file, and I'll make sure that you get the recording and also any pertinent links that may also help you navigate Qualtrics as you use it on your own. We also have quite a few people who are going to be joining us today. So if you do have questions, we have the mics turned off for everybody, so there's no background noise distractions. But feel free to hit the chat button at the bottom of your Zoom window and type any questions in the chat that may come up. And Bridget's going to be helping me field some of these questions, and we'll just take periodic breaks so that we can answer them during the session. We also have a new feature for Zoom. We have closed captioning, if you notice at the bottom of your screen. So if anybody, wants to follow along there, they totally can. And I believe there's a transcript you can even pull up on the side of your screen by hitting the transcript button. So let me share my screen with you guys. Bridget, can you see my screen?
Yep, perfect.
Awesome, thank you. So let's get started. So we are talking about Qualtrics today. And if you've never used Qualtrics before, perfect. You're in the completely right place. And even if you have used it but need a refresher, you're also in the right place. So Qualtrics is our official survey tool at Weill Cornell. It's really, really easy to use. You just have to get kind of used to the interface. Qualtrics recently updated its interface this month, and they'll be officially transitioning over to it by May 31st. So if you have used Qualtrics before, but you haven't logged in lately, it looks a little different. And they've tried to make things a little easier to find. I think that they've made some improvements in terms of how to navigate the site. There are tons of question types, literally anything you could think of to ask a survey respondent. Qualtrics probably has a way for you to do that. You can reuse almost every piece of your survey. So if you do something like quarterly, customer service surveys or something like that, you can reuse your survey and get like a whole new set of results instead of you having to work from scratch every time. And one of the best things is that it's no extra cost to departments. You can log into your Qualtrics account today. You don't need a phone number. You don't need to contact ITS to get access to it. It's going to be right there available for to use immediately. So we also have another survey tool called RedCap. And a lot of people ask me, when should I use Qualtrics and when should I use RedCap? So there's kind of a general rule of thumb that even has exceptions, but if you're collecting a lot of protected health information or personal information from your respondents, it might be better to use RedCap. That's not to say you can't use Qualtrics to collect that type of data. We do have a business associates agreement with Qualtrics where they have to protect the data that we collect. But if you're looking to do very immersive surveys that may incorporate information from Epic or track patients over a very long period of time in a research study, you may want to consider RedCap because it has additional features that integrate with our EMR system. We do have some information about both of those tools at this link, survey.med.cornell.edu. And if you have questions about which one should I use, a really good resource is our ARCH team, which stands for Architecture in Research Computing in Health. And their email is arch-support@med.cornell.edu. And they're a great team. They can answer any questions you have about creating a research survey and which tool may work best. And I'll make sure that I send you that email address after the session. So you're ready to make a survey. What do? Qualtrics is available at wildcornell.qualtrics.com. Really easy. All you need to do is log in with your seaweed and your password, and then you just start making surveys. It's that simple. If for some reason we go through all this information today, and you go to your computer a week later and try to make a survey and you realize you forgot everything, don't worry. I mean, I'll be sending you again this information so that you can go back through it. Our enterprise license also includes getting support from Qualtrics itself. I'll show you how you can reach out to their chat services and things like that. But qualtrics.com/support is just a wealth of useful information about it, how to do literally anything in Qualtrics. They also have a forum of other people, all the other Qualtrics users who just have questions about how do I do this in a survey, and people from Qualtrics answer, and also just other Qualtrics users give ideas about how they set up their own surveys in their accounts. So I think it's a great resource. If you have an issue like you can't log into Qualtrics, that's more of a technical problem. And if you run into that situation, I really highly recommend that you contact ITS support. They can look at your account and see if there are any issues with it, and make sure that it is up and running for you. And while we're going to go through the technical ways to create a survey, we never really get a chance in these kind of intro sessions to talk about what makes a good survey, how to create good survey questions. So I recommend, there's a lot of good guidance on how to do this at Qualtrics itself, qualtrics.com. You all also have a free LinkedIn Learning account at linkedinlearning.com. So you can look at any tutorials about survey creation just by logging in with your Weill Cornell email. And we do offer training on how to do, how to set up surveys so that they're kind of optimized to collect the best information. We have a form that you can fill out at its.weill.cornell.edu/techconnect. And it's just a request to get some extra training on not only Qualtrics, but any of the tools that we support. And, we'll reach out to you, set up a time. We do the sessions over Zoom so that it's a little more convenient. We can kind of, reach out to you and your colleagues if you want, at a time that's convenient for you. So definitely check out our Tech Connect service if you want some additional training. So let me just exit out of here. And we'll go straight into the demo. Does anyone have any questions before I move on about Qualtrics?
I don't see anything in the chat.
Okay, perfect. We'll just move on then. This is an example, by the way, of our Tech Connect form. It's at the My Help Desk website. That URL I gave you is just basically a direct link to this form, so you don't have to navigate too much in the My Help Desk website. But again, no fee for this service. You just contact us by filling out this form, giving us as much information as you can about what tool you want to learn and what specifically you're trying to do with it. And that helps us, figure out a more customized way of training you on how to use, the tool. So whenever you have a chance and whenever you want training, just fill this out and we'll get back to you. All right, so let's head into Qualtrics. So this is my Qualtrics account, but I'm going to open up another tab and just remind you, wildcornell.qualtrics.com. And I'm already logged in, but what would happen is normally you would see that Weill Cornell web login screen that you're very familiar with. It asks you for your seaweed and password, and it takes you to this exact screen. Okay, let me just click out of that one so I don't have two. So this is my Qualtrics dashboard. If you've never been in Qualtrics before, yours is going to be blank. But essentially, this dashboard shows me every single survey that I have created. Every one of these line items is a survey, and it gives me some basic info about the status, the questions, how many people have responded to the survey. So it's like a quick view of what's going on with these surveys, okay? You'll notice for each survey, I get some information. I wanna talk about what status means really quick. So obviously this is the name of the survey. It gives me information about the last time I went in there to modify it. And status, there's three statuses. There's new, there's active, and there's closed. So new means that I just created this survey and I haven't sent it out to anybody yet. I haven't published it to collect data, but it's something that I am working on. So you'll see there are no responses that have been collected, unlike an active survey, which basically I just turned on and sent out a survey link to people so that they could take my survey. And now it's tracking how many people are taking it and some other information for me so that I know it's open and I'm collecting data at this time. And a closed survey just means what it sounds like. I've turned off the survey. I'm no longer collecting data. It's kind of retired. I can always turn it back on if I want to. But basically at this time, I don't need to collect data for this particular survey. You can get to your surveys in multiple ways. So you can just click on a survey in your dashboard and it'll take you to it. You can also look at all of your surveys in kind of one view. So you'll see right now that this is only one page of 21 for me. I create a lot of surveys. Most of them are just demonstrations, but I've got a lot in there. So if I click this little arrow right here, that takes me to all of my surveys. You will see that I have 202 and I can categorize them into different folders if I want by creating new folders. Please ignore the fact that I'm very bad at organizing my surveys. And I can also see surveys that have been shared with me. So I didn't create the survey per se, but I had a colleague who added me to it so that I could look at it and review it, at least from a back-end perspective. So if I click on that, I can actually find every single person who shared a survey with me. And Bridget, for example, has shared 8 with me, and I can look at every single survey she's ever shared with me. So that's one way that you can look at your surveys. You can sort them by last modified, which is the default, or just different things like project name. So it would be in alphabetical order, the status, who the owner is. Or what I like to do is there is a search bar up here at the top. So I do a lot of surveys for our annual event SmartFest. So if I just type in SmartFest, you'll see that it filters all of my surveys related to SmartFest right there just by using this little field at the top right. Any questions about how to navigate through Qualtrics? That's usually pretty self-explanatory, but just checking.
Looks like nothing yet.
Okay. There's also in the new interface of Qualtrics, over here on the left-hand side at the very top, they added a tiny menu. This used to be all up here on the top right, but they just decided to kind of keep it closed off so that I guess there weren't too many links taking up the screen. Probably the ones that will be most useful to you, especially as new Qualtrics users, are, so projects is basically this dashboard right now, and every survey you've ever done, that's projects, right? Catalog kind of shows you a bunch of templates that you can use to start a survey. And you're free to look at all of these, but you can also create a project from scratch, which is what I'm going to teach you today, just so you have that skill set, but that's where you would go to look at all of the templates. It would be under catalog. Contacts are basically you can create lists of contacts. If you want to send surveys directly from Qualtrics to people, you can do that, or you can just grab links and send them via Outlook to your own contact list that you may have in Outlook. The only time I would say that creating a contact list in Qualtrics is really necessary is if you want to add tracking to your survey, which I'll talk about a little later, but Qualtrics gives you this really cool ability to add an entire contact list. So you would just add, names and emails, essentially. It looks a little bit like an Excel sheet. And then you could ask Qualtrics to create an individualized link for each person. And when Qualtrics sends out the survey to all those email addresses in your list, you can track exactly who's opened the survey, who's taken the survey, who's like halfway through the survey, who hasn't taken it at all. And it's a really powerful tool if you want to just send reminders in that case. You know that Qualtrics in Qualtrics, you only have these maybe 10 people who haven't finished their survey. So you can send a reminder just to those 10 people in Qualtrics to please finish the survey. So it's a really powerful tool in that aspect when it comes to contact lists. You don't have to, but I'll show you the different ways when we get into the survey creation. And you also have a library. So Qualtrics saves every single file that you upload to a survey. Any image I've ever used in a survey is sitting right here. It also allows you to upload PDF files and other file types so that people can review them in the survey. And there's also messages. Messages are things like at the end of your survey, you can customize a message that gives maybe some follow-up information to your respondents. So this is where Qualtrics saves everything. It's very good at not deleting things without telling you maybe 2 or 3 times, are you sure that you want to delete this? So it's kind of good in that sense, in that you'll never need to worry about things just randomly disappearing. All right, so let's go back into our projects. Again, I can go here, or you can even click on this little XM and it takes you directly back into your dashboard. So we're going to create our first survey together. And to do that, you need to head over to Create New Project. It's this big blue button on the top right of your screen. So I'm going to click on that. And again, we're back in the catalog. So I'm going to create a survey from scratch with you guys. And it gives me a little bit of information on what this type of survey is best for, which is a new feature, which is kind of nice. And I'm going to hit Get Started. I'm going to name my project. So this is going to be a very scientific research study. Okay. It's going to be called Adopt a Cat Survey. And today is 5/25. I don't want to forget which version this is. And I can categorize it if I want into one of my folders. I'm going to do Tech Tuesday samples. And how do you want to start your survey? So usually you're probably 99.9% of the time going to create a blank survey project from scratch. But you can pull a copy of another survey from your library. So again, what I was telling you about not having to, reinvent the wheel every time, you can just pull an old survey and start working on that one. You can pull a survey from the library that I was showing you earlier, or a QSF file. So a QSF file is a specific file type for Qualtrics. Let's say you have a colleague at another institution who's built a Qualtrics survey and you want to kind of borrow it. They can actually download a QSF file and send it to you, and then you can upload it into your account and use it from there. So that's what a QSF file is, if you're wondering. But for the most part, again, you'll probably be creating a blank survey or copy from an existing survey that you already have in your dashboard. Okay, so let's start with a blank one. And we're going to hit Create Project. So now our dashboard's going to change a bit. Give it a second to think. All right, so this is our survey creation dashboard, okay? This is where we're gonna build our survey. And as you can see, as a quick reminder, so this is a new interface that Qualtrics just released at the beginning of the month, and this will be the permanent interface starting May 31st. So you can switch back to the old one, but I highly recommend you just start using the new one, because this is going to be basically the permanent one, in like a week. So I would just try to learn from this one. Okay. So let's build a survey. How does this work? So you'll see right in the middle of your screen, this is where your survey is going to be built. And on the left-hand side, you have multiple tools to help you customize the survey. The biggest of which is going to be at the very top, called question type. So by default, every time you have a new question, Qualtrics is going to add a multiple choice option. You don't need to keep that. In fact, anytime I like to start a survey, I like to do just a little quick introductory paragraph to set expectations about what this survey is about. So to change this, all I have to do is go to the top left under question type and hit this drop down menu. What's nice about this menu is you can hover over any question type, and Qualtrics gives you like a little preview on the right hand side of what this question is going to look like on your screen. All right. So in this case, there's a ton. I highly recommend you just sit down in Qualtrics one day and just see anything that you can do in it. But I'm going to just go over probably the most common question types today for the sake of time. So I just want to add text. I want to add an introductory paragraph. So that's what I'm going to do. I changed it to text/graphic, and you can see that the question in the middle of the screen changed. So it says click to write the question text. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to do a short introductory paragraph. So you just type right there in the field. Thanks for your interest in adopting a cat. Please fill out the following information to be considered. All right. And that's all I want to do in this case. Let's keep it short and sweet. When I'm done typing, all I have to do is click anywhere outside of the text box, and that question is good to go. One thing, though, that is really, kind of nice about all the text options in Qualtrics is that if I click back on it, you will see a little tab that says Rich Content Editor. So if I click on that, you'll see something that looks very similar to Word. This just lets me format my text. So, if I wanted to, I could select it all. I could change the font. I could make it all bold or add color. I could even add images or a video, a table, hyperlinks. I mean, it's basically just like Word. So if you ever worked in Word, you can definitely use the format text option. And when you're done, you just click outside again of the text box, and now you'll see that all of my text is bold in this case. So let's move on to our next question. And the way you're going to do that is just hit the add new question button at the bottom. And it's going to give you a few options right from there, which is nice. In this case, I think I want to ask a question that has to do with the person who's adopting. So maybe like a form. All right. So a form field is probably the best option. And you'll see that the format has changed slightly to accommodate a form field question. And I just have to click here to write what I'm, what I'm asking for. So I'll just type something like, please include the following information. All right, click out of there. And now I have 3 options here, but I can always change the amount based on what I need. In this case, I'm going to click on choice number 1, and I want their full name. All right, click on choice 2. Maybe I want their phone number. And choice 3, maybe their email address. Okay, because I need a way to contact them, right? If they're interested in adopting a cat. You'll see that these fields are a little tiny. I like to grab the corner with my mouse and just kind of pull them out so that people know they can type a lot more than what it looks like. So you can just click and drag these fields so they're a little tiny bit bigger. Okay, if for some reason I wanted to add an extra field, maybe like address, like home address or zip code even, they're right here under form fields. I can add a number. So I get another form field popping up. I can also just hit enter on my computer keyboard, and it gives me another field, and I can hit delete and get rid of them that way. So it's really easy to add more options to your survey questions in Qualtrics. All right, so I want their information, and this is a really important question. I don't want a person filling out my survey to skip this, because if they don't fill it out, the submission is useless. I don't know how to contact them after the fact. So one thing that Qualtrics has that you can use is something called requirements. So over here on the left-hand side, you'll see that there is a section called response requirements. And if I click on add requirements, this little toggle, you'll see I have 2 options. One is forced response, meaning I'm sure you've taken a survey where maybe it's a little lengthy and you skipped a question and then you try to go to the next page and then it says, please fill out this question to continue. That's what forced response is, okay? If you want to be a little not as forceful, I guess, in your survey, there's also an option called request response, and that's a little different. What it'll do is if somebody fills out a survey page and then tries to move on, Qualtrics gives more of a gentle reminder like, oh, hey, you missed this question. Do you want to fill it out or do you want to continue? So you're giving them the option. They can still skip it, but you're kind of just gently pushing them to finish all of the questions. So that's the difference between force response and request response. In this case, I need the information, so I'm going to force it. And anytime you add a requirement to your survey, you'll notice a little asterisk on the question that requires a response. So that's a good way to track that the questions that you kind of need those responses. There's a visual indicator that you've done that already in Qualtrics. We also want to kind of make sure that the information that we are getting for these fields is valid information. Sometimes people don't want to give their phone number and they may just kind of type in whatever gobbledygook from their typewriters so that they don't have to fill out the information. But if you want actual good data, you want to make sure you're getting a phone number and you're getting a valid email address. So how do you do that? Right here, there's a little link that says click here to edit form fields. So we're going to click on that. And you'll see for each of these fields, there is a little drop down button that says no validation. And this is how you can add validation to some of your specific survey fields. So right now we've got full name. That's really hard to validate, but we can do phone number. So let's click on that and we'll move over here to validation. And you'll see there's a lot of really cool options here. So we can validate things like email address, phone number, even down to the country in some cases. You can validate states, postal codes, dates. Numerical value is very useful for things like if you're asking for somebody's age, for example, in a survey, you make sure that they're typing in an age and not writing down like 1 or 2 or things like that. So there is a lot of cool things that you can do to just further customize your survey and making sure that the data you're getting is really good. So in this case, I want to validate a phone number. I'm assuming they're going to be from the US, and for email, I can do the same thing. They have to give me a valid email address in order to continue the survey. All right. And when I am done, I just have to go back to preview mode. Okay, perfect. Let's add another question. Let's say I'm curious about, let's do a multiple choice. That's the most common question type. Let's do you have pets at home? Real easy. And you can see that I typed out this question and Qualtrics has already guessed what I might want my answers to be, which is kind of cool. This is probably way too many options. I just need yes or no. So I am going to cut down just to 2 options, yes or no. And keep in mind, I can also just click on these and type whatever I want in them too. So you don't have to just choose the options that Qualtrics gives you by default. All right.
Hey, Vanessa,
Yes.
I will jump in right now because we have a question that kind of relates to what you have.
Oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Samantha Mason says she's currently working on a survey that contains multiple choice questions and is asking, how can I update my survey to include a description for each of the multiple choice questions?
So you want to add a field to have them put in more information? Is that what you're looking for? If you could put it in the chat, or if you want to undo her, turn on her mic, Bridget, that might be easier.
Oh yeah, let me see, Samantha. I'm gonna try to give you the power to speak. Let me go find her. Here we go.
Hi, thank you again for this presentation.
No problem.
The question is like, so question 3 says, do you have pets at home? It would ideally be a question like, choose your favorite pet, and then I don't know, choose the cat that you're interested in, and then you'll have like the name of the cat and then a description of the cat and then the next cat and another description.
When you say this description, are you referring to a description that you as the survey creator add in, or something that you want the survey responder to add in?
Something I add in so that they can like get a visualization of the cat I'm referring to.
Okay. So I am going to show how to do that in just a minute. So if you just sit tight, I'm going to show you how to customize it a little more so that you can like see pictures and like add more description. I will be showing that, but that is a very good question. And if you wait like 5 minutes, you'll see it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No problem. So let me add a follow-up question to this one, to question 3, do you have pets at home? The one that we were referring to that I'm going to show later is actually question 5. So it's coming up. So let's do a follow-up to, do you have pets at home? And if they say yes, I want a follow-up of what kind of pet they have. So let me ask, which type of pet do you have at home? Actually, what type of, we could do pets because they might have more than one, right? And in this case, we can do dog, let's do cat, bird, and I'm just gonna do other for now. We're gonna play around with other in a second because that's a very popular question answer. So so right now they can only choose one, right? They have to choose dog, cat, bird, or other. What if they have a dog and a cat, right? What if you want to give them that option to select more than one? What's nice about Qualtrics is, again, on the left-hand side, every question type has multiple formats, meaning different ways that you can ask the question. So in this case, for a multiple choice question, I can do something like a drop down. I can do select a box. And in this case, I'm going to do a list, but I want to add an option to add more than, there we go, answer type, allow multiple answers. So if I click on that right there, you'll notice that the radio buttons turned into check boxes. And at that point, the user will be able to select more than one option here. So in this case, if there's maybe more than one option they can select, I usually like to add in the question, select all that apply, so they know that they can do that. All right. And for other, let's say that you want the user, the respondent, to actually type in what other is. Do they have like a lizard, for example? Do they have a chinchilla? I don't know. It could be so many things, but we're going to click on other. And for every text option, you can actually do this. There's a little drop-down menu that you can pull up. But for other in particular, we want to add a field that allows them to type in and specify what other is. So in this case, I'm going to click it. And at the very top, you're going to see allow text entry. And boom, the person can type right there what other is. In fact, I'm going to put please specify so they know that I want them to specify what that other means right there in the box. Okay. One thing about Qualtrics too is that you can add logic. So in this case, in question 3, do you have pets at home? Yes or no? If they answer no, question 4 is kind of pointless, right? Like I don't need them to answer that. But we can have somebody skip question 4 if they answer no. And we do that with something called logic. So I'm gonna make sure that question 4 is selected. And I'm gonna move down to something here called display logic. And display logic just means that question 4 will only display depending on how they answer question 3. Those are the conditions I'm going to give the survey, right? So display this question only if the following condition is met. If question number 3, do you have pets at home, is yes, then yes, I want question 4 to show up, right? And that's this little notification right here that's not going to show up on your final survey, but it's letting you as a survey builder know that this question has logic and it's related to question 3. Okay. And we'll test that in just a second. So now to answer the question that just came up, question 5, adding descriptions and kind of, making the multiple choice a little more, maybe robust is the right term. We'll do, which cat are you interested in adopting? So this is where it gets fun. All right. So I've got 3 cats today. I've got Grumpy Cat. I have Lil Bub. These are all real cats, by the way. Don't think I'm weird. And Princess Monster Truck. That's my 3rd cat. Okay. So these are great, right? You'd be interested in cats with these names, but you want to see the cats, right? You want to know what they look like. Cool. Qualtrics has a feature where, again, you can click on the option here on the drop-down menu, and you can do a few things. You can, again, rich content editor, you can format the text, you can add logic to specific answers and things like that. But we want to insert a graphic. All right. And this takes me directly to my library where I have a bunch of images, or I can upload a new graphic if I want to, that's on my desktop. In this case, I have made this survey a few times, so I have these images ready to go. So the first one was Grumpy Cat, and oh no, is he gone? Looks like he might be gone. No, he's there. Okay, so Grumpy Cat. And if you wanted to add more of a description, you can do that just by clicking the text here and say like what type of cat you might be dealing with. I actually don't know. I think Grumpy Cat is like he was a dwarf cat. So you can add more details here in the field, just kind of explaining more about the cat or the option in this case, if you're not doing a cat survey, which you might likely not be doing. And again, you can just do this with each option. I'm going to insert a graphic. There's a little bub. There he is. And I've got Princess Monster Truck. Where is she? Great. All very beautiful cats, as you can see. There we go. And if I wanted to add more descriptions, all I'd have to do is click on the text box and type in details about each of these cats. I can say what their ages are, you know, what their what breed they are and things like that, just to make it a little more informative for the user. Okay, I hope that answers your question. But if you need any more specifics, just write in the chat and I can go through it again. So this is my survey. I think it looks great. It's amazing. All right. So what we want to do now is we can do a few things. So before you publish this, you definitely just want to double check on a few things to make sure that the survey looks good. All right. One thing that you can do that I highly recommend is there's a little button here called Survey Options. And this lets you super customize your survey. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying do everything that's in here, but you should definitely consider a few things when you build a survey. One of them is, I'm going to go over here to responses. You know, there's options about could you put in a back button so people can go back and forth in your survey? Totally up to you, but it's turned off by default. You can allow respondents to finish later. So you know, if they didn't finish and they click back on the same link, they can basically be taken to the point that they stopped at in your survey. You know, you can decide what to do with incomplete survey responses. All right. So in this case, for cat adoption, if somebody didn't finish out the survey, the data is useless to me, right? So I would probably delete the information after a week or whatever time frame that I choose. But if you're doing a research study and some of that partial data is useful to you, you might decide that you just want to record it and keep it anyway, even if they didn't finish. So really it's up to you, but know that that is an option that you can do when you build your surveys, okay? And you can decide what to do with inactive surveys. I'm going to move over to security. Usually most people build surveys so that they're available to anyone to take, but know that you don't have to do that. You can make them invitation only, which would give a special link and password that you can, you know, create so that, you know, only the people you want to take the survey can. All right. You can prevent people from making multiple submissions. So if you're doing like a voting kind of survey, you have this added security that people can't basically do ballot box stuffing, or I guess virtually. You know, there's a lot of things that you can do to further protect your survey. And then post survey here, I think has some really good options. There is, oh wait, let me go back into security. I missed something that I think is important. Yes, okay. So at the very bottom, there is an option called anonymize responses. So technically when you build your survey, you don't have to ask for the respondent's name or contact information or anything like that, right? But when you collect data in Qualtrics, it collects other raw data, such as what the computer's IP address is of the person who completed the survey. It gives you like a little geographic pin on a map of where the survey was taken. So you won't know who the person is, but you'll kind of know information like their location and their IP address. And you may not want that. I mean, I've been asked by people conducting research if they can just completely eliminate that data when they download the results, and you can. And all you have to do is go here to survey options, then security. And at the bottom, you just make sure that this is turned off and you don't collect any details from people. Okay, like the I guess the backend computer data. And then for post survey, you can create, this is where you would create like customized messages. So you can send a thank you for people who, you know, complete your survey. You can do email triggers. So let's say you wanted to know anytime somebody filled out your survey, you wanted the results automatically emailed to you or people on your team. You can do that here. You can just set up who it's going to go to. You can set up conditions. So on this default, it's when they complete the survey, you get it, but you can add other ones. And you can just write a little message and you could send it, you know, immediately as soon as somebody fills it out. Definitely lots of things that you can do. So let me close out of that. One more thing that might be useful, actually, let me go find it since they moved it around on me. Oh, here we go. Survey availability. So let's say you have a survey that's going to be open for a month and it closes, let's say a month from now at midnight. Do you want to be up at midnight making sure that the survey is closed? Absolutely no, you don't want to do that. Nobody wants to. So you can actually leave a specific start and end date for your survey right here. And you can add a start time and an end time. And the survey will automatically turn off and stop collecting data on the date that you select. And it's really, really handy, especially if you're doing very long-term surveys. People tend to forget that they should have closed the survey off at a specific time. So just let Qualtrics do that thinking for you. Just tell it what to do and it'll remember. And it's really great. We've got some advanced options here, like adding scores and quotas to surveys. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go into those, but we do training on this. So if you're interested in these options right here in particular, you can definitely ask for some guidance on that in the Tech Connect form. So you're ready to go with your survey. You've gone through all of these options. What do? I'm going to hit the preview button, and this will let you test what your survey looks like before you send it out to the masses. You can even send this preview link. It'll say preview right here. You can copy and paste it in an email or in a Teams chat and send it to your colleagues and say, hey, can you test this survey for me so I can make sure it looks good? And you can make sure that things like validation work. So remember, I made this one a forced question and I'm going to hit yes. Oh, I can't move on. It's telling me I have to answer the question. So that's how you can test the survey to make sure it works exactly the way that you want. And then when you're done, you're just going to click out of it. And if I think my survey looks great and I don't need anything else, then all I have to do is click publish. And Qualtrics has this really cool little tool that reviews your survey. It just takes a look at the questions to make sure that, you know, everything looks good, the logic looks good, you know, everything about your survey. You're going to collect the best data you possibly can. In this case, Qualtrics is telling me I am great. It also gives recommendations. So if I click on it, it gives me a suggestion about bot detection. In this case, I don't care. You can do it if you want, but I don't really care. So I'm going to click out of that and just make sure that I publish my survey. And it'll give it a minute. All right. So that's my survey link that I can send to anybody I want. I can put it on a website. I can email it to everybody that I know. I can put it in social media. Like, it doesn't matter where this link goes. When I click on it, this is the form that's going to collect the actual data. All right. If you ever lose this link, don't worry. It's here under distributions. So if you need to find that link again, it's under anonymous link. All right. And you can send this to anybody, even if they're outside of Cornell, and they can take it. All right. There are other ways that you can send or that you can allow people to take your survey. You can email from Qualtrics. You can send personal links. Again, that's just for tracking. You can do SMS, although there's an added fee for this one. So definitely don't do this unless you're doing kind of a massive project and maybe have a little bit of funding for that. You can do QR codes, which are great for presentations. So you can slap a QR code on a PowerPoint slide and people can scan it with their phones and they'll be taken directly to the survey. So lots of ways that you can send it out. And then when you want to actually find the data that you have been trying to collect for so long, let's go to one that actually has responses. I'm going to do this one. All right, so this one has 117 responses, and I want to know how people responded. So there's two ways I can do this. One is data and analysis, which lets you grab basically the raw data of how everybody responded. You'll see there's a bunch of line items here in this survey of how people responded. I don't like this view. I actually like to look at it in Excel. So what I do is just go to export and import, and I export the data. I can export it in a few formats. So if you use SPSS, for example, you can download all the information in that format. Google Drive, CSV and Excel are very similar. I'm going to do CSV. And I realized that we're at time. I'm just going to do this part really quickly. So I downloaded all of the raw data in an Excel form, which is going to pop up in just a second. There we go. And it gives you a lot of data, again, that you probably don't need. But like you have start date and end date of when they took the survey. Column C, status, is actually really important. Where it says survey preview is where people were just testing the data. So I might want to delete those rows as it's just testing. IP address is anything that is a valid survey entry. Again, that's what I was talking about when it came to tracking. And then you can actually delete all of this if you wanted to and get to the nitty gritty, which is what I'm going to do. So any column that starts with Q1 are your actual survey results. That is question 1, question 2. And you can see the raw data of how anybody answered. And you can do anything you want with this data. You can create charts or things like that. The other way that you could look at data is reports. So Qualtrics also visualizes the data for you, which is nice. You don't have to do that extra step in Excel if you don't want to, unless you want to do something that's very, complex. These are very simple visualizations. But this is how people in question 1 answered. And if I click on it, I can actually change some of the visualizations. I could do a bar chart, and I can do a pie chart and a bunch of other things that are available there. I can change colors, change the values of the legends, and I can do that for every single question here, right? I can just choose how I want to visualize the information. And if my manager, for example, said, hey, Vanessa, how did everybody do on that quiz that you did? I can go right here to share report, and I can actually export it as a PDF, Word, PowerPoint, like a bunch of different options here. I can even manage a public report, meaning that if I do not want people to like constantly ask, how did people do on the survey, and have me be the bottleneck and having to constantly re-download these, I could just do manage public report and send people this link. They can't actually manipulate the data or do anything to it, but it's kind of just a dashboard of a real-time view of exactly what the results look like at that point in time. So that's just a pretty cool way that you could just show people the results. I realize that we are 2 minutes over time, but if there are questions, I will stay on to answer them.
Yeah, we've got a couple.
Yeah.
Let's see, just 2 actually. Susan Salomon asked, say you have a multiple choice question with a scale of 1 to 5 with lengthy descriptions for each option. How do we keep the description out of the reports?
That is a good question. So unfortunately with Qualtrics, it's going to give you exactly what the question looks like. That how you've, how you've basically typed it in the survey is how it's going to appear in the report. If you do the raw data export, you can manipulate that a little bit in Excel or any of the file types that you download, and just kind of clean it up to make it a little bit nicer looking. But unfortunately, whatever you type in your survey is what Qualtrics is going to export, like spit it out and give it to you. And like, this is what you asked for. So you can't really change from one to the other unless you go in and manually edit it.
Great. Susan, if you have any other follow-up questions, let me know. Another question from Blanca Carpio. How would I be able to share the results of the survey with my supervisor?
Good question.
Oh, she said she got the answer actually.
Oh, well, there's one other way.
Cool, okay.
So that way is, so if you wanted your manager to have backend access, like Bridget has shared 8 surveys with me, remember, from the beginning of this demo. The way she did that was she went to tools, and there is an option here called collaborate. So if she wanted to share back-end access with me or make sure I could edit the surveys or that I could look at the reports myself, she can actually add me. In this case, I'm going to add her. I'm just going to type her name and she's going to appear right there. You can share with anybody at Weill Cornell. If they've never logged into their Qualtrics account, you may need to ask them to in order to see them in that field. Because if you start typing their name and they don't appear, it's probably 100% chance that they've never logged into their Qualtrics account. So I'm going to add her. She's going to get a message. I'm just going to put test right there in her email that I've added her to this survey. And you can see that I can change her permissions for access to the survey. So right now she has the access to edit. But let's say she's my manager and I don't necessarily need her to edit the survey, but I need her to look at the reports. And maybe I'll let her distribute it to the survey if she wants to. So I can decide what her permissions are and just hit save. And that is another way that you can share results with somebody on your team or a colleague, in another department. That's essentially how you can just collaborate together on a survey. Hopefully that helps.
She said, that's great. Good.
Any other questions before I wrap this up?
Nothing else has come in the chat.
Well, no problem. So if you do think of a question later on, which happens often, you can just reply back to the email that I send out, which will be sent out by the end of the day. I just need time to upload this recording so that you can see it. So if you do have a question, just write back and I will do my best to answer your question. And again, if you just want some additional training, maybe for you or people in your department, you can use that Tech Connect form and we'll set something up for you at a date that's convenient for everybody. So that's how we can help. And if there's nothing else, thank you guys for joining me today and taking some time. Thank you as always to Bridget for helping me field the questions. And have a great day, everyone.